Hello there, welcome back to my channel, welcome back to a new video. Welcome to week 22 Overwatch League power rankings for the NA region. It's been a little bit since I've uploaded a video. I didn't mean to take that long of a break, it's almost been a week. I aim to make multiple videos a week. I don't quite want to do daily, but I aim to make at least multiple videos a week. And just before I get into the power rankings here, I just wanted to say thank you so much for the support recently on recent videos. A lot of people have been sort of finding the channel. A lot of people have been commenting recently a lot, and it's been really nice to see some really nice comments come through. And I'll keep trying to keep a semi-consistent upload schedule. I'm doing my best. I don't also worth noting, I don't intend on this channel being pretty much only power rankings and prediction videos, which is how it seemed like right now. I do intend on continuing the topic discussion videos. It's just I've not had too much time these last couple of days to record videos and edit videos and put them out there, so just bear with me a little bit. I do plan on getting back on top of things. Don't expect daily uploads, but maybe once every 2 days, once every 3 days, I'll probably have some kind of video out, whether it's a power ranking, a prediction video, or a discussion video, or a VOD review, or anything pretty much. Yeah, just keep a lookout. So, but for the most part, thank you so much. Some really nice comments on the last couple of videos, and I'm seeing a little bit of growth coming in, it's super nice. So cheers everyone for that. Thank you. But yeah, anyway, on with the power rankings. It's what everyone's here for. Who do I think is in 13th place right now? I think if you watch the matches, it should be obvious. It's going to have to be Boston Uprising, which is really disappointing because I really did think that they were getting better and better. They were looking better and better, slowly getting there. But unfortunately, it just wasn't it. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough. And they did the unthinkable. They lost to the Washington Justice, which means by default, they probably need to be in 13th place right now. I can see them getting better. I know it's difficult to say, but I can see them getting better. I think part of the reason why they took such a sort of convincing loss to Washington was because they don't have the best understanding of the current meta, and if I'm being honest with you, neither do I. It's for the most part, it seems like exactly how it was before, but instead of Tracer, we now have Genji, because Genji's buffs are so ridiculous. Why would you not play Genji right now? He just crazy damage output in neutral fights, and then his ultimate is just as good as it's always been. So yeah, I don't think Boston really came in fully understanding how to play it, and so they fell off a little bit. So in coming months, I guess I'll have to say months because we won't see them in coming weeks anymore, but in coming months I can see them getting better. Just with more practice in a new meta. I know Color Hex to be a pretty decent Genji, so hopefully we see them getting just that little bit better. But yeah, for now, Boston Uprising, you have to say that they're 13th place. They did the unthinkable. They lost fairly convincingly to the Washington Justice, so you have to say that they're 13th place, I think. And then naturally in 12th place, we have the Washington Justice themselves. They're still not looking great. They're still really not looking great. I think it was definitely a fortunate turn of meta for them, but I don't see them being a good team still. I still definitely don't see them being able to beat any teams that I've rated higher than them. Yeah, just 12th place. Same issues as last week, really. They just don't look like a very well-coordinated team, and on an individual level, there's only really one player I can highlight on this roster that I think is doing consistently well, and that would be Janu. The rest of them are really struggling. So 12th place, Washington Justice. I don't have much to say about them. We all know what Washington Justice are. They're just, it doesn't even seem like they're trying at this point. So you have to say 12th place. 11th, though, is a team that I can see being put higher, but for now I feel I need to keep them in 11th, is Vancouver Titans. I can absolutely understand why anyone would put Titans a little bit higher after how they've been playing this week. They definitely seem a lot more coordinated as a team. With every week that goes by, they just seem to be better and better and better. And this week as well, I want to shout out to their support line, who have had a massive improvement. If you remember last week, I said their support line was the one part of this team that I was actually slightly worried about. They were the one part of this team that I didn't see improving very much. But this week they've actually they've changed my mind a little bit. They played pretty well. Even against Atlanta, there was a bit of a shitstorm, but they still played pretty well. They still looked a lot better than they have done previously, and so I think again more time with this team, they'll probably be able to climb the rankings a little bit. But for now, I want to keep them in the same place as they were last week, 11th place. 10th place, Toronto Defiant. I think they're slowly getting there. They're a lot like Titans in the I can see that they're slowly coming together, which is super weird. Like, when you look at this roster, you see Logics, you see Agility, Surefour, 3 like DPS players that in previous seasons have been the carries of their teams. Like, they've been known to be like really, really strong DPS players, and they have a lot of experience with them too. And then you see players coming in like Nevix as well, who previously was on the Shock. Granted, he didn't see much playtime. I think he only saw a couple maps of playtime last season, actually, but he was still on the Shock. He can still take lessons that he learned from being on that team and bring them to this team. It's still experience, and yet they still just don't seem great. I can definitely see anyone saying that the Titans are a better team than them right now. I can definitely see that, but I think they've beaten Titans enough previously for me to feel comfortable rating them above the Titans for now. I do see Defiant getting better the more they play with Numlocked, but for the most part, what this team really needs is a coaching staff, because if you don't know this, Toronto right now, Toronto Defiant right now, don't actually have a functioning coaching staff. Their head coach is actually an analyst. As far as I know, from talkings on a Vast stream and on a Sideshow stream and just things that I've heard in the community, their team right now consists of their players and then a coaching staff that is made up of 2 people, I believe. I again, take this with a grain of salt because I've not done a massive amount of research into this. But I believe their coaching staff consists of 2 people, and their head coach is actually an analyst and not a coach at all. And they're still actually in desperate need of coaches. That's going to be a big issue for this team going forwards, and if they don't fix that, I think other teams lower down in the list, like Titans, and like Boston probably in coming months, will probably overtake. Moving on anyway, 9th place, a team that I'm pretty disappointed in, is the LA Gladiators, because I was wrong. I thought that they would be able to take top 5 this week. I thought they'd comfortably move up and look better with Kevster in the roster, and that they'd just be an overall better team after practicing more with Kevster, and I was wrong. They don't look good at all. They actually were playing some extremely bad Overwatch this weekend. Even players on their team that I would say are consistently good throughout seasons of Overwatch League just looked bad. They just looked bad. Big Goose was constantly out of position on the Brigitte. Shaz really wasn't getting anything done. And even OG, I actually wanted to point this out and talk about it directly. The difference in play on this team between when they play with OG and when they play with Cloudy is huge. It's massive. That could be down to a bunch of things, though. That could be down to maybe the team just feels more comfortable running Brawl, which I think is definitely a possibility with the amount that this team forces Brawl comps, forces Reinhardt Brawl comps. That could be a possibility. And then maybe Cloudy is just a little bit more of a leadership figure than OG is, and so the team just feels more comfortable with Cloudy in the roster. But then the unfortunate part of that is that Cloudy really only plays Reinhardt. He has previously in Contenders a couple of years ago played Winston, but that was so long ago. And to my knowledge, the only other times he's played Winston competitively was on Paris Eternal last year, and it really did not look great. So Cloudy really only plays Reinhardt, and so if you want a more consistent main tank across all of the different heroes, particularly Orisa, then you're going to want to play with OG. And if OG is missing out on that leadership factor that Cloudy is able to bring to the table and really rally the Gladiators together, then this is actually quite a big issue for them. Because I don't know if this is the case, but it seems like that. And also just a general thing with the Gladiators of how much they fall back on Reinhardt Brawl comps. They really need to stop forcing what they want to do and just learn to play what is optimal. I think that's kind of the lesson that I've taken away from Gladiators right now, is they try to force things that aren't, that they try to force comps that just aren't working right now, instead of playing the optimal meta. I think if they attempted to play the optimal meta, they'd actually do pretty well. As far as I know, Mirror is a very talented Genji, and then they obviously have Birdring to play the hit scan. So as far as DPS goes in the current meta, they're safe. I think OG is a good enough Orisa to play with them, even if he's not a leadership figure like Cloudy might be. I think OG is a good enough Orisa to play with the team if they were to play meta. Space is capable on any off tank. I'm not worried about him. The backline, from what I saw of them this weekend, I have my concerns about Big Goose and Shaz from what I saw of them this weekend. But if they can improve, then I believe so can the rest of the team. I said it already. They should really just stop trying to force these comps that really aren't working, and they should just focus on playing what is optimal right now. They should focus on the optimal strategy, learn it, play it, and maybe they'll look better. Moving on, 8th place. A team that I think could be rated higher on this list. Definitely could be rated higher, but I'm a little bit skeptical at the same time, so I'm going to sit back and wait to see more from them before I rate them any higher than 8th place. And that's the Houston Outlaws. I think they definitely could be higher on this list. They definitely have the potential to be higher up on this list. I think they just need to sort out a few things with who they field in their main roster for this meta, and they'll be set. For now, I want to keep them 8th place. And that's because I don't think this is a particularly great meta for them. They showed that they are capable of playing it. They are capable of playing the Genji. Blase looked okay on the Genji. I think Dante is actually probably a better Genji player. Because if my memory serves me correctly, Dante is actually a very good Genji player. So I wonder why on a couple maps they opted to play with Blase on Genji and then Dante be their main hitscan when they have Linksa, who is, we know Linksa to be a very talented hitscan player, and they have Dante, who is probably a better Genji player too. I think if they were to field a roster that had Dante in on the Genji and then Linksa to play the hit scan, that would probably be a little bit more successful for Houston. Other than that, I think as long as they're stuck with Hydration as their main tank, they're going to struggle a little bit. I don't think Hydration's been a bad main tank for them so far. I just think they would be a lot more comfortable if they had an actual practiced and experienced main tank player on their team, possibly. And yeah, honestly, for the Outlaws, if we're looking at it for the whole season, they should really just begin investing in next season instead of this season. I think if they started investing in next season now and started scouting for talent for next season's roster now, they'll be much better off next season. Whereas if they try to focus on winning this season and put time and energy into this season, and I'm not saying give up, but I'm saying it might be the better option at this point to invest in next season. But yeah, I don't know. I think they should reflect on who they field in their roster, and they should probably just begin investing in next season at this point. However, that being said, I do think they could potentially be higher on this list in coming weeks. We'll have to see. Moving on, 7th place, the Dallas Fuel. They can be better than how they are playing now, and that's why I have them rated fairly high compared to how they've been performing. I think that they can be better than how they are now. And my reason for thinking that is because Decay was still on break. And I know that Decay is the whole meme of like, oh, Decay is the god carry of this team, blah, 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 blah. I don't think that's the case. I think this team is actually a functional team without Decay, despite what they've been showing us recently. I do think this team is a capable team without Decay. But that doesn't mean that when Decay is back, they're not going to vastly improve. I think when Decay comes back, this team is just going to get better and better. Again, in the current meta, with Genji being heavily played around, and when you think back to Decay last season, or not last season, but Decay in Contenders, and just Decay's career previously, you'll probably know that he is a crazy Genji player. He is an insane Genji player. Don't get me wrong, Doha was doing great on the Genji this weekend, but Decay is something else on Genji. And when Decay can play, and then they can bring in Onigod to be the hit scan, and they can field that roster of Onigod and Decay, this team is going to be powerful. I really think this team is going to be top 5 in NA contending. It's going to be contending for it. They are a strong team. They're not showing it, but I can see glimpses of potential. And there's just something about this roster that just makes me want to believe in it. And so I'm putting them in 7th place. 6th place, Atlanta Reign. I like what I see. I like what I see from this team. They've not had the greatest of seasons so far, but coming into this week and last week as well, I think they've actually looked very good. It could be the case that it's just the classic Atlanta Reign thing of stomping the teams that are below them, and then as soon as they play against a team like the Dallas Fuel, they might fall over. But I don't know. For me, they're passing the eye test right now. What can I say? I think they're doing really well. I think they're sort of coming into their own as far as team play goes. It took them a long time, but they are coming into their own as far as team play goes. I think that they have gotten quite lucky as well with the current meta. All of their star players are really going to be getting to play what they're known for. Gator's going to get to play the Orisa, which he's a very, very strong Orisa player. Dogman is going to be able to play the Baptiste, which I think is by far his best hero. Granted, he could play that anyway, but now is where it's really going to be useful for them. And the biggest one of all, we've slowly been seeing Erster be fielded back in the roster, and now the man can play Genji. And if you don't remember to last season, Erster's Genji is one of the best in the world. He is insane on the Genji. He's up there with Haxal. He's up there with... I don't even know who else. He's up there with the best on Genji. So it's a good meta for Atlanta Reign, and I think they've been playing well in previous weeks. Yeah, I feel comfortable putting them at 6th place right now. 5th place. It's the Philadelphia Fusion. Listen, I'm not going to go too harsh on this team because I feel like I've already been harsh enough against this team, and they're really starting to get it from everyone else now as well. So I'll make this one quite brief. I think for the most part, the coaches just need to wake up and realize that they need to sort their team out. This team's team play is not good enough for them to be considered a title contender. It's just not good enough. Now, yes, they have insane players on their roster. They have absolutely crazy players. They have incredible individual talent. But their team play and the way they play around each other, their coordination, it's not terrible, but it's not good enough for them to be considered a top team. When I compare them to teams like Florida and Shock and Valiant, they're just not as good. They really are just not as good. And granted, it was kind of unfortunate that they couldn't really run what was optimal. What with Carpe being their best Tracer player and their best Widow player, and Hisu not really looking too overly comfortable on the Widowmaker. Again, to be fair, he's going up against Arns, who is probably the best Widowmaker in the world at this point, and one of the best Ashes in the world at this point. I'll give you that. But still, he did not look comfortable, and yes, it's unfortunate that Carpe is the one who plays both of their heroes for both of those heroes for this roster. But at the same time, they should at least look for ways to build around that. It didn't look like they'd practiced, almost. It didn't look like they'd got much practice in with Hisu on Widowmaker and Carpe on the Tracer. It just didn't. When I look at them and I do the eye test, they didn't pass. Like, what can I say? I was actually very close to putting Atlanta Reign above them, just because I think Atlanta are going to be, in coming weeks, going to be higher as well. But I think I'd rather see them prove that first, and that's why I didn't rate Atlanta above them. And I just have a question as well. We know EQO is actually a very good Genji, and we've seen this season he's not played as well as he has in previous seasons, but he's still one of the, like, you know, he's been pretty well known for his Genji for a couple of years now, and Genji comes into meta. Where was he? Why was he not fielded? Does anyone else on this roster play Genji? Is Hisu going to come out and just all of a sudden be an incredible Genji player and let Carpe back on the Widow again? It was very strange for me to not see EQO come out on Genji when most of the teams have really put it together that Genji is the pick. And if I had to put it down to anything, I would put it down to the coaching staff, because I don't want to call them lazy, because I have no idea what goes on behind the scenes at Philadelphia Fusion, but from what I can tell, it almost seems like the team is so heavily reliant on brute forcing their matches with individual talent that it really seems like the coaches are just okay with that, and they're just sort of letting the team do that, and they get wins in scrims because of it, and so they're like, oh, this team already knows what we're doing. Well, we can sit back and just let the money roll in. Well, it's not the case, because they're losing. They are going to continue losing when they get put into higher seeded matches. They will lose more, and I don't know. There's not much else I can say about this team. They just really need to. They just need to kick into gear. Seriously, they're capable of it. They have insane individual talent. They just need to grind out whatever the issues are that they're having with team play. They need to grind it out, and they need to start working as a team. Anyway, I've gone on for long enough about the Philadelphia Fusion. 4th place, a team that is arguably better than the team that I've put in 3rd place, but I've still put them in 4th place. Florida Mayhem. Still a great team. I still don't have many complaints about this team. I find this team so impressive. They're so well coordinated. They're so good on an individual basis, and then good in terms of team play. I love their coaching staff. From what we've seen of them, Kuki just seems to be an incredible leader for them. He seems to have put them together and like sort of taught them how to play the game almost from the ground up. It's really amazing how well this roster's come together, and how all of a sudden these players like Gargoyle, who last season just fell into the background, have sort of come out this season and looked insanely talented. Like, I really don't know what to say about this team that hasn't already been said. They could easily have been in the top 3 in NA, but for me, I've just put them in 4th place, possibly due to bias, but we'll get onto that. I really like the Yaki Genji. He seems to be a very strong Genji player, which is good going forwards for them. And obviously the rest of their team still gets to play what is optimal for them. We still get to see Gargoyle on the Sigma. We still get to see Fate on the Orisa. This team going forwards, I can see them just continuing to do what they do. I can see them actually being really good in coming weeks when they learn this meta a little bit more. They did have a close match against Houston. It was closer than it should have been. That's for sure. But at the same time, I think that's because it's a brand new meta. Nobody's really been playing Genji in the last 2 years, and so obviously they're going to come in and be rusty on it. But yeah, I think I can see Florida possibly being as high as 2nd in coming weeks, but we'll see. We'll see. For now, Florida Mayhem 4th place. I don't really have any complaints. I'm really strong team. Another strong team in 3rd place, the Los Angeles Valiant. They took a very tough loss versus Paris. But I'll get onto that more when I talk about Paris Eternal in a second. But yeah, LA Valiant could possibly be 4th. It's too close to tell, honestly. I think Florida is a very strong team, but because of their recent loss to Valiant, I still feel a little bit shaky about putting Valiant below them. So for now, Valiant 3rd and Florida 4th. But anyway, Valiant themselves, their team play is so good. They are so well coordinated, and it amazes me again because this is almost an entire roster of. In fact, I think it is an entire roster of newcomers. It's an entire roster of rookies, except for KSF and McGravy, I believe, and I think that's about it. The rest of them are just newcomers. Which is insane. Actually, no, Shax played last season as well, but he didn't really play much. Anyway, point is, it's insane that this team is practically an entire team of newcomers, and yet they're this good. They're this talented. And I feel like I have to say it again. It's not just the DPS. The tanks are always doing what they're supposed to be doing. It's very rare that I'll ever see the tanks mess up. And then the supports as well are just popping off. Lastro and Rain have really come into their own in previous weeks, in previous matches. They've looked so good as a team that it was very disheartening to see them lose this week, just because they obviously don't have a great roster for this particular meta. And even so, even with that being the case, I still think this team is very strong. Their team play is ridiculously strong at this point. They just seem to know what each other are doing at all times. They just seem to be aware of so much. going on within the team. They're just so well coordinated. They're sort of like the opposite of Philadelphia Fusion almost. Philadelphia Fusion is a team of 6 all-star players who are just ridiculously talented individually, but they don't mesh well together as a team. They don't look very well coordinated at all. Whereas Valiant is a team of 6 players who, granted, have come into their own as nutty individual players across the season, but when you read those names, they're 6 players who are pretty decent players. Not exactly world class, with the exception of maybe KSP and Shax. But their team play is so good. It's so well coordinated that it doesn't even matter. Yeah, I could gush about the Valiant for the next hour, but for the most part, I just want to get onto the real reason why they're not in second place at the moment, and that's the meta right now calls for Genji, and unless KSF or Apply can come out of the woodwork and show that they're actually incredibly talented on Genji, I don't know how far this team is going to go in this meta. I think they're good enough at what they do right now to hold a top 5 position above the other teams, even if the other teams were playing meta. But for now, I think 3rd place is probably suitable for them, maybe even 4th place. I'd put them 3rd. Anyway, I've gone on for long enough about the Valiant. Moving on to 2nd place, the Paris Eternal. I'll be honest, I'm not too high on this team, but I feel like it's necessary to put them in 2nd place right now. This is such a good meta for this team. This is actually such a good meta for this team. Purely because they can put Sparkle on Genji. I said last week in my predictions video that for Paris to be able to beat Valiant this week, this weekend even, it would have taken a drastic change in meta for them to be able to beat the Valiant. And what do you know? We got a drastic change in the meta. Genji suddenly became the go-to hero, and Sparkle is finally able to play a hero that he's good at and really pop off and really just, I don't want to say carry the team, but really, yeah, Sparkle carried this victory home. His Genji is so stupidly good that he was able to beat an insanely coordinated team when they were playing at their best. That's impressive. But what I do want to say about this team is, even though they have Sparkle to play the Genji, and even though they have Exi, who's also, that's another thing as well. I don't want it to just sort of be this. I don't want to sort of come across like I think that it's only Sparkle that's good on this team, because Exi played very well also. Like, Exi played insanely well too. So don't ignore Exi. Exi is still an incredibly good player. I think everyone on this team is just sort of being overshadowed by Sparkle at the moment, though, is the unfortunate thing, because his Genji is just so good. What I am worried about with this team, though, is just that I'm scared that it's just going to become the Sparkle Exi show. And by that I mean, I don't want this team to just sort of get too relaxed and assume that every match Sparkle and Exi are just going to come in and carry them. Because where I'm sure they are probably capable of doing that, it's not going to bode well for the team if, like, in the future the meta changes, or a hero pool comes in that isn't favorable for them. Maybe Genji gets banned. You know, I don't want that to happen for this team, and I'm concerned that it might end up happening because I'm not too impressed with most of the other players on this team. FD God has been shaky for me recently. Fielder looks great on the Ana, but that's really about it. He's not convinced me with the Baptiste just yet. I'm still not convinced by either of the main tanks. Yeah, Ben Best is great on Reinhardt, but what else can he play? And yeah, No Smite is great on the Winston, but again, what else can he play? And Hanbin, where he has his moments, Hanbin feeds just a little bit too much for me to consider him a top off tank right now. I'm just slightly worried for this team, I think. I'm just slightly worried that it's just going to become the Exi Sparkle show, and they're going to be heavily reliant on, I can't speak words today. They're going to become too heavily reliant on Exi and Sparkle to come in and carry them. I don't want that to be the case for this team, and so I'd really, really love it if they could prove to me, if those other players on this roster could prove to me that they are capable of playing up to the standard that Exi and Sparkle do. But yeah, aside from that, I like their coaching staff. I think their coaching staff is probably going to be a big factor in improving this team. in coming weeks and making sure they stay in this second place tier. But yeah, that's about all I have to say about Paris Eternal. And finally, first place, we all know who it is. It's the San Francisco Shock. I mean, they are so good. They're so good. They're ridiculous. They are just too stacked. I don't know what I can say about this team, so this one won't take too long. They're way too good. They are way too good. I genuinely don't know what I can say about this team that I haven't said already and that nobody else has said already. They're stacked. They are too good. It should be illegal in the league for a single team to be this good at the game. They're stupidly good. I've seen some people on Reddit and on various Discord servers saying that they're gonna drop off a little bit this meta because because their previous Genji players in previous seasons were Architect and Sinatra, who were insane Genji players. But I think we're all forgetting one person, that is Rascal. Don't underestimate Rascal. Rascal can play every hero, including Genji. Trust me on this, Rascal is a nutty Genji, and if they decide that they want to play Genji, Rascal's going to be the one to do it. And again, I know it's a bit of blind faith, but trust me on this, Rascal is an incredible Genji player. He is crazy good. The guy is crazy good at Genji. He practically solo carried NRG. Like, if you remember back to when he was dropped from Dallas Fuel, NRG, the contenders team at the time, you were NA contenders team at the time, NRG signed Rascal, and pretty much for the entire contenders season, they put him on Genji, and then towards the end it was Brigitte, but for the most part it was Genji, and he basically solo carried this contenders team for an entire season just playing Genji. That's how good this guy is. He really is an insane Genji player, so don't underrate Rascal. Seriously, never underestimate this guy. He plays every hero. He's crazy. But yeah, there's not much else I can say about the Shock. They're nuts. They're obviously the best team. They're probably the best team in the world right now. Yeah, that's pretty much all I had to say. Sorry this video went on for so long, and I was a little bit out of it today. I've been a little bit out of it in the last couple of days, so being able to sit down and record this video has been a little bit more arduous than it needs to be, I guess. But yeah, so sorry about that. Sorry if the points that I wanted to make weren't quite as clear as I intend them to be. Videos coming up in the next couple of weeks will be better. It's been a long week for me this week, trust me. But yeah, coming up soon, APAC Power Rankings videos. Expect those either later today or tomorrow. And other than that, I don't really have much else to say. So yeah, cheers for watching. Keep a lookout for upcoming videos. And thank you so much for all the support.